You are undoubtedly aware that a few hours ago, your peaceful sleep in the city of Ouagadougou was unfortunately disturbed by the sound of weapons. We sincerely apologize for this. We do not wish for it. We have never wished for it, but such are the circumstances of life. Therefore, we extend our apologies to you and all the residents of Ouagadougou for the noise of weapons over these 2 days.
Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
In June 2024, as the world watched, a seemingly routine security check near the tense border separating Burkina Faso and Togo, a region already fraught with instability, exposed a meticulously planned plot, a scheme so audacious it stunned officials and sent shockwaves throughout West Africa. The discovery quickly became international news. 47 trucks, meticulously disguised as a humanitarian aid convoy, seemingly carrying life-saving supplies, were unexpectedly intercepted by vigilant security forces, acting on a tip-off that something was amiss. The paperwork accompanying the convoy was flawless, seemingly legitimate, and the drivers appeared unsuspecting, adding to the deceptive nature of the operation. But inside the trucks, hidden beneath layers of what appeared to be food and medicine, authorities made a shocking discovery: an enormous arsenal of weapons, estimated to be worth a staggering $100 million. It was a cache large enough to equip and arm a small army, raising serious questions about its intended use. The convoy's close proximity to Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso, significantly raised the stakes and amplified the potential danger. Had it successfully reached the capital, the weapons would have likely disappeared into the urban landscape, becoming untraceable and readily available for nefarious purposes. This influx of weaponry would have undoubtedly fueled further chaos and instability within the already fragile region. This was clearly no ordinary run-of-the-mill smuggling operation. The scale and sophistication pointed to something far more sinister. It appeared to be a meticulously orchestrated attempt to destabilize the government from within, undermining its authority and threatening the nation's stability. The operation's success hinged on the deceptive cover of humanitarian aid, exploiting the goodwill associated with such efforts. The international community quickly took notice of this alarming discovery, and the world began asking critical questions. Who was the mastermind behind this elaborate scheme? Who orchestrated this dangerous plot? Who was the intended recipient of these weapons? Which group or organization was meant to receive this deadly cargo? And perhaps most importantly, what was their ultimate endgame? What was the hidden agenda driving this operation? The interception of this convoy revealed a hidden war being waged, a conflict operating in the shadows. It was a war fought not on traditional open battlefields with uniformed soldiers, but through intricate logistics networks, exploiting corruption within official channels, and relying on bribery to facilitate its operations. It was a war waged by criminal networks and shadowy organizations operating in the underground, threatening the stability of the entire region. The brilliance of the plot and its inherent danger becomes clear upon closer inspection. Was it cynical use of humanitarian aid as a shield? A calculated move to exploit the world's compassion? The very symbol of help and hope was weaponized. Each truck carried impeccable documents, a paper trail meticulously crafted to deceive. Customs forms, manifests, letters of transit, each one a carefully constructed lie designed to bypass scrutiny and lull authorities into a false sense of security, all pointing to food and essential supplies, reinforcing the illusion of a benevolent mission. The labels, the packaging, everything screamed humanitarian relief. But a closer look, a deeper dive beneath the surface revealed the truth, a stark and terrifying contrast to the facade. The containers were packed not with life-saving provisions, but with AK-47s, ready to fuel conflict and destruction. RPGs, capable of taking down armored vehicles and inflicting massive damage. grenades, designed to sow chaos and terror in close-quarters combat, and even anti-aircraft missiles, weapons that could cripple air support and change the balance of power. The scale and sophistication of the arsenal spoke volumes about the intentions behind it. Suggested powerful backers with deep pockets, individuals or organizations willing to invest heavily in destabilizing the region, and access to global arms markets indicating a network of connections spanning across borders and continents. This was a curated cache, not a random assortment of weapons, designed to equip a well-organized force, a clear sign of a planned and coordinated operation. For a major assault on the government, an attempt to overthrow the existing order through violence and force. The incident exposed how easily aid corridors intended for mercy can be hijacked for violence, becoming conduits for conflict instead of compassion, forcing a rethink of security for humanitarian shipments, demanding stricter protocols and more thorough inspections to prevent future abuses. It also hinted at insider involvement, a betrayal from within, either through forged documents, expertly crafted to deceive, or corrupt officials willing to turn a blind eye for personal gain, making the deception even more chilling. A stark reminder of the depths of human depravity and the constant need for vigilance. The operation's unraveling began with a tip-off to military intelligence, not a random checkpoint. Security services tracked the convoy for days, waiting until it was deep inside Burkina Faso before moving in. The drivers, mostly from neighboring countries, claimed ignorance, hired for a routine job, paid in advance, and given legitimate-looking paperwork. Interrogations revealed a classic compartmentalized operation. Each participant knew only their small part. Investigators found a mix of expertly forged and genuine documents, raising fears of official complicity. The coordinated roadblock near the capital ensured the entire arsenal was seized without resistance. This was more than a tactical win. It was proof of a powerful, organized threat operating in the shadows. The truck's destination was not a remote hideout, but two nondescript warehouses in Ouagadougou's industrial district. This location put the arsenal within striking distance of government buildings and the presidential palace. The warehouses were owned by shell companies, their real owners hidden behind layers of secrecy. Financial trails linked these companies to former officials and ex-military figures, elites sidelined by President Traoré's reforms. The evidence pointed to a shadow government plotting a violent comeback, using wealth and old networks to stage an insurrection. The choice of location allowed for discreet absorption of the trucks and rapid deployment of weapons. These warehouses were not just storage, they were launchpads for a potential civil conflict. The government, facing mounting pressure and public unrest, recognized the urgent need to address the situation head-on. They responded with a display of rare transparency, a move designed to regain public trust and demonstrate their commitment to accountability. This was a calculated risk, a gamble on whether openness could quell the rising tide of discontent. As part of this effort, the government displayed the seized trucks and weapons on national TV, showcasing the tangible results of their efforts to combat the perceived threats. This visual evidence was intended to reassure the public that action was being taken. President Traoré, the nation's leader, then took to the airwaves to address the nation directly, declaring, "The enemies of the revolution," he stated with conviction, "no longer wear uniforms." He continued, "They wear suits. They hold contracts." With a tone of warning, he concluded, "They smile in public and plan in private." This powerful statement reframed the threat. It was no longer solely about foreign jihadists, but also about a domestic conspiracy, allegedly involving businessmen and even former officials who had once held positions of power. Traoré's words served as a stark warning to any potential conspirators, and simultaneously prepared the public for potentially shocking revelations of high-level treason that could shake the very foundations of the nation. The speech was also a strategic move to rally support for his government during a time of crisis. The public reacted with a mixture of shock and anger, a volatile combination fueled by uncertainty and fear. Many took to the streets demanding justice for what they perceived as a profound betrayal of their trust. The government's display of openness, while risky, did succeed in galvanizing a segment of the population, bolstering their support base. However, despite the accusations and the public outcry, no arrests were made, and no names were publicly released, leaving many questions unanswered. This lack of concrete action only fueled speculation and intensified the atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. Despite the ambiguity, the underlying message was clear. The fight was no longer just against external threats, but against internal enemies, those who were allegedly hiding behind a facade of respectability and influence. The nation braced itself, waiting anxiously for the next chapter to unfold in this high-stakes struggle for power and control. The scale of the arms shipment pointed to a political objective, not mere profit. Analysts focused on a coalition of disgruntled elites, former officials and business allies ousted by Traoré's anti-corruption drive. For them, destabilizing the government was a path to reclaim lost power and wealth. The weapons were likely meant for a private militia or sympathetic army factions to stage a coup. External actors may also be involved. Burkina Faso's pivot away from France and toward new alliances has angered some foreign powers. Traces of the weapons led to conflict zones across Africa and the Middle East, suggesting international arms traffickers played a role. The plot likely united domestic dissidents, foreign interests, and global criminal networks in a dangerous alliance. Security analysts agree. This was a multi-layered conspiracy, not the work of a lone group. The operation's scale and coordination suggest it wasn't the first. Other arms shipments may have already slipped through. Traoré's reference to enemies in suits signaled the investigation's focus on powerful business and political figures from past regimes. The plot fits the pattern of a counter-revolution, aiming to restore a lucrative status quo for a select few. The international dimension remains murky, with the Sahel now a battleground for global powers vying for influence. Some analysts warn the government could use the crisis to justify crackdowns and consolidate power. The truth will only emerge if authorities reveal concrete evidence and name those involved. The interception is more than a national security win. It's a turning point for Burkina Faso and the Sahel. It tests the government's ability to defend itself from internal threats and assert true sovereignty. The methods used, aid infiltration, shell companies, transnational logistics, could be copied in neighboring states. The incident exposes a silent war for control, fought through clandestine means rather than open conflict. The outcome will shape whether these nations remain pawns of external interests or chart their own course. The government's response will send a message. Can revolutionary regimes withstand the pressure of shadow networks? The stakes are nothing less than the future of post-colonial independence in the region. As the dust settles, many questions remain unanswered. The mastermind's identities are still secret, no arrests have been announced, and the fate of the drivers is unknown. The weapons and trucks have vanished from public view, and journalists face warnings not to probe further. This silence breeds speculation and anxiety. Does it mean a careful investigation, or is the network too deeply embedded to expose? The government must balance secrecy with transparency to maintain public trust. The story of the 47 trucks is far from over. It's a symbol of the hidden power struggles shaping Burkina Faso's future. The world watches to see if justice and sovereignty will prevail, or if the conspirators will simply melt back into the shadows.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.